Seemingly out of nowhere in the past few years, Kmart's home brand product label Anko, with its over 10,000 products, has absolutely taken over Australia. A staggering 88% of households are said to purchase Anko products each year, and as a result, parent company Wesfarmers' profits have soared. A cult online following for the brand has also emerged, thanks in part to these affordable dupes of luxury products that have gone viral nationwide. Anko has been so successful that there are worldwide expansion plans being implemented as we speak, and if they're anywhere near as successful as they have been in Australia, there's no telling the market share they'll occupy. How and why did all of this happen? And more importantly, can they be trusted? So I imagine all you Americans watching this are a little bit confused to hear the words Kmart and profits in the same sentence for the first time in nearly 30 years, and you're completely right to be. To cut a long story short for my fellow Aussies, the American Kmart essentially had the same business trajectory as Dick Smith. It still exists, but predominantly as an online storefront. A true fall from grace, considering that at their peak in the early 90s, there were about 2,000 Kmart stores in the US. Then it was, rather ironically, Target that would put them in the gutter financially. So it might come as a surprise to some that Australia's Kmart is basically the American version of Target, and 85% of the products sold in Kmart stores, as well as 25% of our targets, are made by our protagonist, Anko. Kmart landed down under in the late 1960s as a joint operation between the chain's American owners and the Australian corporation Coles Group. The first store opened in the Melbourne suburb of Burwood in 1969, and the public's reaction to this should give you an idea of how much we just love cheap shit that we don't really need. In the background of all of this, the Australian version of Target, which confoundingly has zero connection to the American version, it's really weird honestly, was making its start as an upmarket Manchester shop in Geelong called Lindsay's. They were fairly successful and got bought out by Myer Emporium Limited a year before the first Kmart opened. Kmart and Target's paths met in 1985 when Coles Group and Myer Emporium merged to create Coles Myer. Despite selling off Myer to American private equity in 2005, a year later, the final boss of Australian conglomerates Wesfarmers bought the whole lot for more than the country of Georgia had made in GDP that entire fucking year. There's always bigger fish. See, I told you. I also came into the picture in 2005, and since then I've corroborated the popular consensus around Kmart as the bang for your buck discount store, and Target as the slightly nicer alternative for middle class shoppers. But even so, both stores at the time sold mostly products from well-known brands, meaning that their catalogues were largely the same. This dwindling distinction between Kmart and Target would end up putting the former's profitability in the toilet. By the late 2000s, Kmart was a dead horse. The business hadn't been profitable in a decade. Figures like 2005's 8% growth in profitability compared to Target's 47% were the norm. It got so bad that Wesfarmers even considered selling off the entire chain, with Woolworths interestingly being a prospective buyer. In October 2008, Wesfarmers appointed ex-Macca's executive Guy Russo to the role of managing director for Kmart. This was part of a larger restructuring effort that Wesfarmers was implementing that prioritized better value and higher quality on-trend products. The way the guy decided to go about this was by reducing the price point diversity of Kmart's offerings, cutting out higher end merchandise and pivoting towards affordability. Kmart was supposed to be a discount store after all. This goal was achieved through a larger focus on house-made products, which is where the name &Co was conceived. Each department had its own variant of the home brand label: Kitchen & Co, Home & Co, Kids & Co, etc. These different names allegedly made the products more easily identifiable in stores. But regardless of whether or not that was the case, Guy's turnaround was beginning to bear fruit. It didn't help that the global financial crisis was doing its thing around the same time, meaning that Kmart's earnings before interest and taxes were slightly lower in 2009 than the previous year. But 2010 was better, and after that it was more or less only upwards for the chain. By Kmart's 50-year anniversary in 2019, the business had completely transformed, and in many ways traded places with the Target of the late 2000s. To celebrate the occasion and the revitalization of the business, Kmart Group unified their home brand label variants under a new portmanteau. &Co became Anko, with the C changed to a K. The name is also an acronym standing for a new kind of, which is meant to represent the transformation the business had undergone over the previous decade. Interestingly, it wouldn't be until after the worst of the pandemic and after everybody under the age of 25 became addicted to TikTok that people would start to notice. And notice they did, because Anko was, and still is, everywhere. This vest I'm wearing is Anko, this storage unit is Anko, and at least part of the reason for that omniscience is that Anko products are, by and large, very useful and generally high quality. That might be a contributing factor, but certainly not the whole reason that Anko has the following on social media that it does. Because instead, I think it came from headlines like these. Not only is Anko selling generally high quality essentials at a low price, they're also duplicating expensive viral products and selling them to the masses. It's a similar strategy to, dare I say, the likes of Shein. And like Shein, Anko is more than just a name. On their website, Anko refer to themselves as a Global Capability Center, or GCC. This meant nothing to me, but this bloke on LinkedIn says that GCCs are offshore units established by multinational corporations to perform a range of strategic functions. In Anko's case, these functions are product research and development. The center is located in Bangalore, India, and of course it's pretty common for big retailers to outsource their production like this, but in countries like India where labor is generally cheaper and environmental regulations looser, the question of ethics is raised. Fortunately for us, Fashion Revolution, the world's largest fashion activism movement, has an answer. In 2022, the group placed Anko at #1 in the Fashion Transparency Index, which measures on a broad scale how transparent a brand is with the public about their production practices. Shocking, I know. But let's remember, that's only 2022. A lot has happened since then. However, given that Shein's use of child labour is so well documented that it's become a meme, we can safely conclude that Kmart probably isn't taking a page out of their blood-soaked book when it comes to practices. That said, the question of principles still remains. Navigating Anko's website reveals a laser focus on social media marketing and providing on-trend products. With the imitation Stanley Cups and Bum Bum Cream, it's clear that Anko's product research team has their finger on the pulse when it comes to young people's shopping habits. There's entire lists of famous, usually expensive products that Anko has peddled imitations of. Not even the homegrown Oodie is safe from Ankonation. There's a chance that small business owners are in the crosshairs too. I found this case where one claimed to have had her Christmas-themed pool floaties duped by Anko. The details surrounding this case are murky, so take it with a grain of salt. If it is accurate though, it's not a good look. From all of this, we can come to one solid conclusion. Kmart, and therefore Anko, are running a business, and so I'm not going to knock them for acting like one. If anything, Kmart competing in any way with these designer brands is a good thing, because even though the monopolists of this country don't want you to know this, competition does reduce prices. I have some concerns I'd like to raise though, and they come from Anko's attunement to social media, some good old-fashioned human nature, and of course, the year 2020. The pandemic had a different impact on everybody. Some people even found the experience to be a positive one. But one thing it did that is universally understood to be bad is instill a sense of FOMO in lots of people. If you've missed out on what FOMO means, just breathe, it's going to be okay. FOMO is the fear of missing out, and when you think about what it was like to live through lockdowns, you'll begin to understand why so many people have it now. Our lives were put on pause for the better part of a year and a half. Many of us missed out on common, shared adolescent experiences because we were all stuck inside. Now, with restrictions lifted, why would we want to miss out on any more? We've been shown how quickly things can change, and that the experiences we expect to share aren't guaranteed. In that time though, social media became the place where shared experiences occur, the likes of TikTok, Instagram, and BeReal. For a couple months. Nowadays, when a new trend comes along, sometimes you can't help but want to be a part of it. It taps into the basic human instinct of following the herd, doing what everyone else is doing. You want to do what all the other cave people are doing, because if you don't, you'll get kicked out of the cave and left behind. Then there is, of course, the effects of influencer culture. You want the Stanley Cup because it's cool, rich people have it, and everyone else wants it. You want the Bum Bum Cream because it's cool, rich people use it daily, and everyone else wishes they could. But here's the thing, even though we don't live in caves anymore, these primordial instincts still exist, and my concern is that Kmart, and by extension Anko, are tapping into them to sell out their products. On top of that, Anko's social media presence has bred a magnetic level of brand loyalty. That woman from before who claimed her pool floaty designs were imitated, she received comments immediately downplaying her claims. Once again, we don't have all the answers for this specific case, and probably never will, but with no concrete evidence to say that Anko didn't buy the designs, is it a good thing that there are people who will immediately jump to the brand's defense? I don't know, but it doesn't sit right with me. Look, I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, but if you want to buy an Anko Stanley Cup, you should. But do it because it provides you with a useful utility, and not due to a whirlwind of marketing and instinctual zeitgeists.